Ed Coker from GetUp, thank you very much for joining us today. Now, GetUp has 250,000 members, which is more than any Australian political party combined. You focus a lot of your activities online. How can e-participation affect the democratic and political process?
Well, look, I don't think it's particularly useful to make a distinction between online and offline action. The reality is that people are communicating, people are taking political action and doing most things in their daily life online, at least in some parts, and their involvement in the democratic process is really no different. So I think that people have been quicker to embrace e-politics and e-democracy are certainly finding it more and more successful, and politicians that have been sluggish to uptake those sorts of new technologies, or sluggish to realise that this is really just about modern realities of how we communicate, are really paying the price. I think the recent federal election showed that more and more people were getting their information about political parties and policies online, discussing it online, and then taking action online through organisations like GetUp as well.
Do you think the government could do a better job with engaging with citizens online?
Look, I think that in general, governments and governments around the world have been a lot slower than the general community to take up these sorts of forms of communication and engagement, and really the community are taking the lead on it. Some governments around the world are starting to become a lot more savvy to that, and which is a great trend. And certainly e-petitioning, which GetUp is heavily involved in, is becoming more and more of a legitimate force. And I think that's probably from politicians learning that it's a legitimate form of expression, and you can really only ignore it at your own peril. But a lot of the initiatives that are coming from the community and the government really trying to catch up on it.
What sort of limitations does the internet and perhaps even new media have as a democratic tool?
Look, I think that the benefits outweigh the limitations by far, but there are certain limitations, and really in the Australian context, it's in the early days especially, it was not viewed as legitimate a form of protest and a form of expression. A lot of email campaigns to the senators were viewed as spam, and there really is this lingering sense that a handwritten letter is worth many times the amount of an email. That's a very hard established notion to shake off, and all those sorts of democratic institutions are based around modes of communication that aren't online. So it's a challenge to remain legitimate, and it's a challenge to connect with people who you don't see face to face as well. I think that with all the social networking that's going on now, I don't think that those are significant problems, because, as I say, that's just the realities of people are communicating in the social sense as well. It's obviously much better and much more engaged on a deeper level when you are face to face with people. But the kind of numbers that you can connect with, and geography is no barrier online. You can connect with people on international issues all around the world. You can connect with people on domestic issues in every corner of Australia. And while you may not have the same level of interaction that you would have with them face to face, and same physical presence as an online rally, for example, the numbers are just off the river scale in terms of scale you can do it on.
Sure. Onto democracy and political activism more generally. What do you think are the main obstacles to democracy in Australia at the moment?
Well, there's a few obstacles, I'd say, in Australia at the moment. I think that some of them are easier to fix than others, and some of them really come down to us, and some of them come down to really the structure of society as they're interested at the moment. I think that media ownership is one area that is a huge threat to democracy in Australia, and concentration of media ownership is further to that is really homogenising a lot of the information that we get, and it's all sorts of commercial interests in it as well that take away from that legitimacy. I think that there's great opportunities for us to overcome that as key citizens and citizen journalists as well. But that's certainly one big threat as well. But on a broader scale, I think with the shrinking of government and the increase of market-based decisions that are being made in the economy rather than in the society. It's much harder for people to have voices in that system and to have their voices to be heard. Whereas all the democratic models are based around government decision making. And those areas of government responsibility are really shrinking where the market's taking over. So I think that's another option as well. In terms of the public citizens, I think that there's quite a lot of disengagement and frustration with certain aspects of the political system, and maybe that stems from the fact that we don't really have good civic representation in Australia, and so people who want to get involved or people who may not know that they want to get involved really start on the back foot because there's not a great widespread understanding in the Australian community about how quite complex political systems and how they work and how they affect our daily lives. Probably compounded by the fact that the party political system is quite off-putting to a lot of Australians, especially young Australians, and it's really hard to break into that door and to find yourself there with your legitimate views being expressed in a very closed shop. Kind of an old boys club at many times, and there's not great democratic avenues for expression within those established party structures. I suppose more specifically to Australia's situation at the moment, one of the dangers to our democracy is people kind of taking the foot off the pedal in the new political environment that we found. I think that it was a lot easier to rally people against more drastic policies and more controversial policies that we had under the last 11 years, where a lot of people became political where they weren't previously. Now it's going to be hard for people to maintain that enthusiasm if they think, for example, of climate change that tick that box. When really we really have to get the government to act no matter who they are.
What sort of campaign focuses will you have now that you've got a more progressive government? Obviously, as you noted, it is a significant change after a decade or more of a conservative government. Do you think that you'll have to move to a more extreme focus?
No, not at all. It's the election of one government really means nothing unless the citizens demand certain actions from them. And yes, we've got a whole swag of promises for the new government, but a progressive government is only going to rise as high as the citizens demand of them. And for us to take a look at it now, would leave us in no better situation than we were last year or in the last few years. So I think that the challenge is different. The challenge is more so progressive Australians not standing as a roadblock along some kind of path to service or in opposition to something that they want to stop, which is quite frankly a lot easier to do and a lot easier to mobilise people around. What the challenge is now is getting the government to go further on issues that we care about, that they may not go so far and may listen to the other vested interests if we weren't there demanding that they do it. Climate change is a perfect example. You've got to remember that all of the other interests, business and industry and organised lobbies around whatever interests, they're going to be arguing just as vociferously to the government, no matter what political background the government comes from. So this government has got all the same voices in their ear saying, from the polluters, let us pollute and don't punish us, on any issue that have just as vigorous lobbying. And for us to not be the voice of reason on the other side, not being the voice representing the community and, concerned citizens saying, well, hang on a minute, for example, climate change, we can't just listen to only the vested interest in here. Then any government is obviously going to have a very imbalanced view of what their policies should be. So I don't think it's a question of becoming more extreme in our demands or the issues that we pick up. I think it's about just maintaining the momentum and encouraging the government to go on the right path and to go far enough on the right path, especially.
GetUp has had quite a few notably successful campaigns, such as the Bring